Hey, welcome. This is Pod and Deliver. And you know what? This evening we're pretty fortunate. We have some of our own mentors during Pod and Deliver. During our last few episodes we've had people we know and sometimes people we don't know that well. But this time, the people that we have tonight, we know for many years, actually 35 years. You know, Ruben? At least 35 years, maybe a little longer, right? And so with that, let me introduce you all to Bruce and Clara Welch. Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Good to be
Hi.
here.
Yeah, we love being here with you.
Can you believe that? It was 35 years that we've
Yeah.
known you, Clara. I know
Yeah.
Bruce, but around the same time. Clara first maybe a little bit, and then Bruce came on. He just, he got in the way of our relationship, but it's okay. We welcome him with open arms.
Yeah, I don't know how that's possible since I'm only 35.
That's right. That's right. And that being said, I was thinking about when we first met you as young high school students, and looking back then, what made you want to work with young people? Because we worked with you at a church in East Los Angeles, and
Mhm.
what made you want to, both of you, work with young people? And you spent many years doing that. What made you want to do that?
Well, when I first got interested, it's because Holly was my best friend. Holly Bird now, but Holly Hare then. And she was the
I think
youth.
it's the reverse,
The
right?
reverse.
Holly hair now.
Yeah. What did I say? Oh,
Another
Holly
flower,
Bird.
yeah.
Yeah.
What a
So,
fun name.
anyways,
We still love you, Holly.
Right? She's like,
I
what?
wanted to spend time with her, and she said, "Well, I'm involved in the youth ministry, and why don't you come on over?" So I did, and I actually did fall in love with young people. So it ended up being a perfect match, and I had such joy, like hanging out with you and you guys and Chris, and it was just going over your house. I was doing a Bible study there, and you guys were always inviting your friends and telling them about God. And really, I mean, that's what made me want to get into youth, was for that reason, that I can influence, but that they can teach me as well. So,
Never even thought about us teaching you, but that's crazy.
oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, for me, it was, I moved down to go to the church where we met, and my roommate, Binge, was the youth kind of pastor there at the time, and so it was kind of a natural fall into get involved with some of the things he was doing. And then as my relationship with Clara evolved and became more serious, and that's when I kind of, once we were kind of dating seriously, that's when I got to know you guys and got involved with your life there too. And then also a common thread in all this is Holly. I've known Holly since I was in 9th grade, and she was one of the reasons I came to this church, was because she said so many good things about it, and I just admired her for so many years. So that was part of it for me too, as well.
Now, Bruce or Clara, either one of you could answer this. We typically interview teachers. This is the first time we're interviewing mentors, although I know in a way the lines get blurred. You teach as well. You taught us. Do you feel like, I've mentored other teachers, and do you feel that mentoring in the context that you two did, there's a special burden to it? There's a feeling like you're doing something that if you don't do it right, you can impact someone's life negatively. Did it feel, because it felt that way to me when I did that, but maybe I was wrong. Maybe I didn't do it right. Do you know what I mean?
Well, there's always that, chance that you're going to say things wrong, or you're going to offend somebody, but I think, maybe where it's different in teaching on a public forum and mentoring that way, and teaching within the context of the church, that's a whole different thing. Because I feel like God, can lead and can forgive or help us to forgive each other, not be offended with each other. I mean, I used to be really rough when it came to, counseling and talking with the youth. I remember one of the gals years later said, oh, or maybe it was one of you two, I don't think so. When they'd see me walking down the street, they would cross the street so they wouldn't have to, talk with me.
Wow. But you know what? But can I be fair though, Clara? I actually felt like I knew that if I would go to you, you would share it straight. Maybe it was tough, but you loved us, and I felt like
it all came in from love. But I did realize later on when I remember hearing this, I thought there is always a better way to do it, and love is definitely the most important. Love had to be there first, and before even kind of telling someone a tough truth that they don't want to have to hear or but so love definitely needed to lead. And because we were in the context of the youth ministry, the youth did know we loved them, so I didn't have to qualify it. But years later, as we talk with, others and mentor or disciple, always my thought is, am I showing love first? Do they feel love before I say something?
Can I say something, Clara, about you?
Yeah.
Watch it.
I've always been on Team Bruce.
Wow.
Hold on, let me finish. And Team Clara. But there was a period of my life where I thought that Clara was mean to me. Hold on. I got off. Oh, wait, let me finish. Though. I left Team Clara.
Oh, wow.
But now I'm back. I actually don't think, I actually feel like you were good for me. I needed that personally. I can't speak for other people, but for me, I think I wouldn't change anything on how you spoke to me, how you handled it, and very tough, but I appreciate it. Yeah. So I'm back on your team.
Well, see, I wonder if it's your maturity that helped you to say, oh, that actually helped me, and I can see it clear now, rather than when, you were a youth and your brain wasn't completely developed. And I guess it's like parents and children, that plays in there. I mean, the difference is we're only about 10 to 15 years apart, where with, parents, it's usually a little older.
Right.
But I think there plays into it too. But I appreciate you saying that to me, that you did, okay, figure out that I was coming from love. And I have had people come back to me and say, that conversation we had changed my life. Like I'm always grateful for you hitting it hard with me. And, she was as an adult and still mad. She had a couple of kids. But, years later, she came back and said, I'll never forget, like, when you said that, it changed my life. And my life is for the better today. Even though I know I said some really harsh things to her about how she was living her life, the choices she was making. And so those kind of things coming back, that's always encouraging.
Going back to what you said about, how we did it back then and the seriousness of it, I guess.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is different now for both of us than it was then is that along with that love, we were very legalistic. I mean, we were sharing the things we believed, I think, in love, but it was very legalistic. And I think we both kind of moved away from some of those positions that we had back then. And I think, if anything, there's more love now. Clara has a great gift in that area of being able to tell people as it is. But I think she's had it all along, but even more so now is the love that she shows within those conversations.
Yeah, they're not trying to judge the person, but just trying to get the truth.
Right.
I have a question that goes along what we're talking about. So if you don't mind.
No, I was going to share, but go for it.
Please share that.
I'm so excited though. I'm so glad to have Bruce and Clara here. Yeah. No, I was going to just jump on and just say regarding you, Clara, I think there was starting to be a little movement, maybe. Even when I was in high school as a senior, there was this one time where it was my prom, and at our church at the time, and going with what Bruce is sharing right now. There was like prom was like a no. Like we had the alternative prom. You guys remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember going to Clara and saying, Clara, I'd like to go to my prom. And I was, my parents, of course, are our number one mentors, but you guys really felt that was that second position throughout a lot of our lives, not just us, our other brother Chris, as you guys know. And so we really respected. Didn't say we put you as a pedestal, but we definitely respected your thought and your idea. And so you shared, hey, Jacob, I remember you telling me, Jacob, it's hard for me to tell you not to go to your prom because I went to mine. And I remember thinking, okay, green light.
No, for sure. I mean, come on. And I think that's how we both approach it now. We think in light of, okay, where they're at, their life, their, what can bring them joy, where we're kind of, I mean, at times you would have thought we were snuffing it, snuffing fun and joy and all that. But yeah, I think we come from a view of try not to judge and just, how is this going to help you think about, the choices you make and who you're spending time with, and, so.
Now, I'm aware this next question, there's some assumptions in it. So you can answer it any way you want, And the question is this, how do people change? Because I know that sometimes you deal with personalities within maybe your studies. You say you teach Bible study and you work with people at your church. So I guess, like I said, answer it any way you want to.
Well, I think there's a number of ways that people change. Part of it, I think, is, I think you guys are familiar with the Enneagram. About a year ago, I went through a certification program for the Enneagram, and I think there's change within that, some of the wisdom that's within that, but I think it comes from self-knowledge, realizing when you're doing things that you haven't realized before, and then having a willingness to change. But I think that happens best in the context of Christ, Christ coming in and changing our lives, helping us through those things that even the Enneagram can help us discover, and making changes there. But sometimes people change just because of tragedies that happen in their life, or like Clara said, like Clara talked about some of the choices that some of the people were making at the time. They go down those path of choices, and all of a sudden they realize this is not a good path, and they do make change. So that's how I would.
But I agree that the long run change is only going to be through Christ, because we have the Holy Spirit that can talk to us, that can convict us, that can make us feel loved. And I mean, what I've seen is change is hard. It's very difficult. And so if you don't have someone that's guiding you through it, like the Holy Spirit and Jesus, there's just no way someone can have a long-term change.
So I was going to ask you a hard question then. Is it possible for somebody to change without Christ? And when I say change, maybe make some positive changes. Is that possible?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, you look at AA, they talk about a higher power, but a lot of times that's not even Christ. But, millions of people have changed their habits of drinking and drug addiction and all that apart from Christ. But again, I think it's the best way. I don't know if it's the easiest way. The way that you have more help,
And then you have people around you that are very much, going that same trail, that down that same road. They are encouraging. We on my women's Bible study, we haven't been together in almost a year, and so we just got back together. And man, what a difference that they say, we know we're not the only ones going through this, because isolation is the worst thing. We were never meant to live in isolation. No man is an island. We need each other, and we need encouragement. And so you know, even something like this is so good to hear.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the change happens within the context of Jesus in your life, and then having others that feel the same way, you know, to encourage you that way.
Yeah, community is huge.
Very huge.
Yeah, we were just reviewing a book with our brother Chris, Jordan Peterson's new book, 12 New Rules for Order. I can't remember. For life. For life, yeah. And so there's a chapter that we're going to be looking at next time we meet, dealing with that what Ruben just brought up. And Jordan Peterson says, yeah, find something that has order. But he gave the example of the Bible, of the 10 Commandments. Yeah. If you follow the 10 Commandments, it's going to have such a big influence on your life. And he used that as an example because there's others, but that's the one, you know, he kind of goes with.
Yeah. Well, you know, and then when we started house church, it was definitely you know, more of an accountability because you have 12 or 13 people around the table and everybody's discussing it. And you know, it's like for there, it was more of salvation through discipleship. So it was in our discipling them every week that we met, we could see their growth in Christ and also, you know, their salvation, really. So I think that's more important in the long run than, did you ask Jesus to be born again? You know, did you do the salvation prayer? I think it's more important to have the discipling going on at the same time, because for definite for growth in the long run, you know.
Yeah.
Agreed. Okay.
You know, Clara, you know, just listening to you, you've had a very major impact on social media. I'm not sure if you know that. Sometimes when you write on there, I'm just following, and I would say I'm probably 95% agreement with your post. Okay, just so you know. Once in a while, someone goes after you. I'm not sure if you
that happens a lot.
Yeah. And I get a little angry, and it just angers me. Just because I feel like, just show some respect for this woman. She at least is putting herself out there. Do you feel like that's kind of what you're doing, like today with that? Is that kind of an extension of what you can do mentoring?
Let me say that because there was isolation at the same time, right? So what I felt, what I was sharing was truth. Like, you know, let's research and find out really what's going on here. And then, yeah, people would attack because either they didn't research or they were listening to another voice, another narrative, you know. But because I was in isolation and all I saw, as most people were in COVID, right?
Right.
So, and what I saw was disheartening. It definitely affected me. And it affected me in a negative way, in the sense of, God, are you real? Can my faith get me through this? What about our grandchildren for the future? You know, how is this going to affect them? So it did get to me, and my kids, you know, they saw it. My family saw it. So I have, since our talk, I have backed off from social media. I still will, if there's something that's really important, I will post it. But I was posting all the time, and it wasn't good for me in that respect, because it wasn't a positive thing for me, because there was always so many people challenging, you know, everything I said, and people I didn't expect to challenge me. And I mean, I still had my answer for it. I never swayed from the truth. But what I tried to do is, when we were done discussing it, or I would say that I loved them and that this would not ruin any friendship we have. And because it's only politics, you know, politics should not really split friendships and families. So, but we would end it. There was one gal who was my neighbor when I was a kid, and she's, you know, she was very opposite of me. And I said, you know, really in the bigger picture, when this election is over, when all that is done, all we have is each other. And she said, that's true. I love you, Clara. And we got to say, I love you to each other. And that's kind of how I tried to end all those kind of conversations. I wanted to make sure we weren't ending in a bad spot. But you can't control people. So it's possible that, you know, I still had people either unfriending me or, you know, that kind of thing, which is, I'm okay with, but I made sure not to unfriend others, you know, in it.
I look at both of you though, this is more of a general question. You don't just post political stuff. I look at both of you as people who post. You're the posters, because I'm not. I rarely post. In fact, I deleted it for 2 months. Disconnected, then I'm back. But
Yeah.
I guess the general question is, what are the advantages to posting a lot? I guess you mentioned the disadvantages, but I see some positive things. I found out about your retreat, your Christian retreat that you go to. Bruce puts up affirmations.
Right.
And what are some of the I don't want to say results, but what are some of the, I don't know, what have you gotten in return for doing things like that?
Well, as far as the affirmations, a friend of mine that we met at family retreat that you mentioned did that about 4 years ago, and it's basically a practice to do during Lent. And I liked the idea so much. I tried it 3 years ago myself, and I just got so much out of it. It just changed my whole outlook toward gratitude. You know, gratitude, and then really thinking about the people in my life and what they have meant to me. And so I did the same thing again this year, and same results. It just changes my whole mindset, because every day I'm thinking about, okay, who's been somebody that's been important in my life? What can I say about them? What are the things that they did that helped me in my life? And I've got messages from many of them saying, I just needed that right now. I really needed to hear that. You know, I value your friendship so much. And it just, I feel like I'm getting a great big hug for 40 days during these affirmations. It's really, I do it to affirm others, but I get probably more out of it than they do, because it's life-changing really in a lot of ways, you know. Yeah,
Kind of going with that, I kind of, as you're sharing, I was thinking, wow, I have to let Bruce know that those affirmations have blessed me. I love reading them. But I'm not sure if you know this, Bruce, but you've blessed actually hundreds of people that you don't know. And I'll share what it is. When in my early marriage, 3 years in my marriage, I asked you to come in and talk to me because I was having some problems with the missus. And I wanted you to know she was giving me problems, and she had to. And
she's a tough one.
That will make some changes.
I don't know what that's like. I had to ask some other brothers what that might be like.
Right. So we met, and I shared, you listen, and I think that's a good skill for a mentor. I think you might agree with just listening, and you listen to me, and for most of the time I talked, and then you just shared, hey, have you ever read this book called The 5 Love Languages? I go, Bruce, just tell me what she needs to do different. Just tell me how do we change this woman? And you just started sharing about the book, and you said, why don't you read the book, Jacob? And I think things will be more clear. And then started focusing on me. And I think that's 2 things. One is that I think that's another skill, is to focus on the person, not to focus on the other one, right? We find out really I was really the problem. What a surprise, right? So I read the book, and I started making changes in my marriage and the way I showed love towards my wife. Found her love language, and to this day it has had a major impact. But now let me tell you why it's affected hundreds of people, maybe more than that. Every year I do a little seminar on that book, and I have students come to me and just tell me how they're. A couple of years ago I had a young woman come. She was working at after school program. She came and met me. And I go, I don't know who this lady is. And she just wanted to thank me. I go, who are you? And she goes, my boyfriend was a student of yours many years ago. And he read that book, and that has changed our relationship.
That's awesome.
I'm so glad that you shared that with me. And it's such it's such a powerful book. It's a life-changing book in a lot of ways, you know.
Yeah.
And it made a difference in Claire and our marriage. And like
Didn't even know that.
just the other day, Claire was out of town for a few days, and she was coming back. And I know that one of her love languages is acts of service. I'd been here at the house alone for a few days, so I just made sure everything was clean and in order. All the dishes were washed, put away, and I just knew it would have a positive impact.
Oh, I did.
That's Kimberly's love language as well.
Yeah. You know, I heard though that there's another love language. You know, there's some love languages that you speak and some that you listen.
Oh,
There's another one that I think I speak a lot. It's a sixth love language. I like to call it the sixth love language, and it's mansplaining.
I was waiting for that.
Well,
Yeah.
I try not I try not to speak that one too much.
Right, good.
now, Bruce is I thought we do something a little different right now. We've talked about Clara's gifting,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Speaking truth. Some people don't like it because it's tough. It's tough. But great speaker, great teacher. Bruce is a singer-songwriter. I remember Bruce would just bring out the guitar and he would share new songs. And I know you like some of these singer-songwriters of the 70s, as do I, especially lately. I think there's something to some of these singers that you can hear every lyric. They're powerful. I'm going to give you a list of some right now. And what I'd like both of you to do, March Madness is going on. And I created an Elite 8 of singer-songwriters. I want you both to pick the top 2 for the championship. So pick 2 of these 8. And I really worked hard on this. I eliminated some because I don't think they were good. You know, Loggins and Messina and Bread, Seals and Crop. Those are good. But here's my Elite 8, and maybe you could pick 2. So I came up with, do you understand the game?
I think so.
Okay.
We're going to pick the top 2.
Top 2. And then we're going to have a championship.
Okay.
Joni Mitchell, James Taylor, Jim Croce, Bob Dylan, Gordon Lightfoot, Simon and Garfunkel, Cat Stevens, Jackson Brown.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, you got to slow down a little. You got to slow down.
down.
I got up to Lightfoot.
Repeat it. Joni Mitchell,
Uh-huh.
James Taylor,
Uh-huh.
Jim Croce,
Right.
Bob Dylan.
Bob
Dylan.
Dylan. Gordon Lightfoot.
Gordon Lightfoot,
Cat Stevens.
Simon and Garfunkel, Cat Stevens, Jackson Brown.
I like all of those.
Yeah.
That's not the right answer. Bruce and Clara has to pick
Can I get
2.
mine too or no? I can't.
Well, there are guests. I mean, this guy likes to talk.
Sorry.
I have my 2. I'm like Claire choose her 2.
Well, my 2 is one of yours, and then oh no, I'd
It
probably
better be mine. Mine.
I'd probably go with that one.
Hey, that's a pretty good list there, huh?
It's a great list.
It's-
They're all
honestly,
great.
It's a great list.
They're all great. I have all of them on my playlist that I listen
Yeah.
to on a regular basis.
Mhm.
So for me, it'd be James Taylor and Bob Dylan of those 8.
That's a good championship around there.
Yeah,
Clara.
Bob Dylan's amazing, but for me, James Taylor and Cat Stevens.
You know, it's interesting. I love Bob Dylan's songs and the songs he did as he records them. But some of the covers of his songs I love even better than the original, and that's unusual when you like the covers, because you know.
And you know, as I got older, Bruce, I'm not sure how you feel about it. I just listened to those lyrics. I go, why did I not pay attention to those lyrics?
I know.
Yeah.
He's a poet. But I would go with James Taylor as well. But I love Simon and Garfunkel. I'm a big
Yeah,
fan.
they're good.
I mean, there's no bad choices in this
Yeah,
list.
honestly.
Yeah, they're all good.
It's really hard to leave, for me, it's really hard to leave off Bob Dylan and but I have, and Joni Mitchell. It's hard. I love Joni Mitchell.
Mhm.
Some of her songs just she's throw me like, wow.
Right.
But I got to go with James Taylor and Cat Stevens. With Class
Hey.
Claire. Yes.
How about you, Jacob?
Yeah.
Don't let me down here.
Yeah, the James. I think the common theme here is James Taylor. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I've gone to see him 5 times, just so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen him close to that.
Yeah,
He's been that many
Been
times.
pretty close. He's amazing.
One year I saw him 2 nights in a row, just kind of a weird turn of circumstances. I got to see him twice in the same venue, two nights in a row.
Yeah.
You know, though, I have some country, not the mainstream country, because I don't really like mainstream country, but there's some country guys that have lyrics that are just out of this world, like John Prine. I don't know if you're familiar with John Prine, but
Great, love John.
oh my gosh, some of the stuff. I mean, he just died last year due to COVID.
Awesome.
And then, oh man, I'm going blank on the other one. I should know him, but my friend Joe Sloan and I have conversations about music all the time, and how sometimes these songs by singer-songwriters turn our thoughts to God more than mainstream worship songs do. They talk about the human condition, and it's just really
maybe you were thinking about some of those outlaws like Chris Christopherson, Waylon Jennings. They're really great.
Yeah, he's in that group, but he's lesser known. I can't think of his name right now. I'll think of it as we go on. But
I'm starting to think that the 1970s. I know this doesn't sound crazy, but the 1970s had the best music.
It was the best music. I agree.
Honestly, it was.
We're 80s guys, but I don't know. I just love the 70s.
And if anybody is not familiar with this, as soon as this video is over, you're gonna hit subscribe.
Yes, Clara.
And you're gonna comment about why you like any of these artists, please. But then you're going to go and listen to Cat Stevens, James Taylor, any of these.
He's on my playlist. I love Cat Stevens.
Yeah.
There's so many songs that are my favorite.
And
Father and Son is one of them.
Oh, that's great. That is great.
Yeah.
And it's a nice antidote to I don't want to judge today's music, but you mentioned some of the country that's come out today, some of the pop. The lyrics are just so banal and just there's not much there. It's nice. I know I sound like a
big green tractor.
I know. How many times in the same chords, same lyrics? It's ridiculous. But
as we're
I thought of the other guy. His name's Guy Clark.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this guy is like a cowboy poet. I mean, he's just really his lyrics are unbelievable.
Yeah, I just love country. I mean, as I've gotten older, I just appreciate it more. Just like I never used to like, what's that one singer, David? He used to have these spectacular outfits, and he has one color eye, blue and green.
David Bowie?
David Bowie. I didn't like David Bowie.
Well, David Bowie's not country.
I know. But I was just thinking, like, people like that. I didn't like before.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I would have loved to, if he did a country song, I think that would be great even. No, maybe not. Okay. But as we're
David Brothers fans too, right?
We're big David Brothers fans.
Absolutely.
Big.
Oh yeah. I just kind of found them recently, and wow, great stuff too.
I'm as much of a geek of the Avid Brothers as some people are of Star Wars. I mean, I know every cover. I mean, it's
Really?
Yeah, I'm really big. It's big.
Yeah, we've gone and seen them a few times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let's do it together next time they're in concert.
Yes, that would be fun. Actually, we'd love for you guys to come when we get to a place where we have all the technology. We'd love to do this in person because it seems a little weird.
It's a little
I want to be
cold.
able to, give.
It's so fun.
And I almost wore a mask before we got here, but Kimberly told me that Ruben won't find that funny.
And Ruben, you shouldn't have got me started on this. The other one, we're leaving females off here. Brandy Carlisle.
Brandy Carlisle is sick, as the kids would say.
She's got a couple of songs with the Avid Brothers too, so that's
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, her albums. If you listen to the story, you would think, well, there's nothing that can top this. But her other albums are worth listening to as well, even though that album is perfect, though.
Right.
But
as we
but let me just ask Bruce and Clara one quick question, but related, because I was going to ask you had mentioned that you're not as dogmatic. I'm not sure if you use the word dogmatic, but legalistic. Is there a moment or a book, or maybe both, where you could lead somebody to, or you could mention a moment maybe where you said, I really feel like I need to change this part of my life? Because I feel like I'm less dogmatic or legalistic as well. And I, there's some thoughts in my head, but what would you say is the catalyst to that type of change for you, for both of you?
You want to go?
No, you go first.
Okay. I was reading some stuff online and I came across a book called Undiluted. It's Discovering the Radical Message of Jesus. And to me, that was like the lights went on. I realized that a lot of my legalism came from looking too much at the Old Testament or too much at Paul's letters, and it kind of really, to a certain extent, ignoring Jesus's teachings. You know, you always talk about the birth of Jesus, the death of Jesus, and the resurrection, but we leave out all that stuff in between, which is really how we're supposed to be living our lives, you know. And that book really helped me to see that more in the whole thing of loving your enemies, turning the other cheek, caring for the poor, forgiving one another. And that book was kind of right at the time I was seeing more of that, and it really helped me to see those things real clearly. So that was really a turnaround moment for me. And that was probably 6-7 years ago, at least, something like that.
Great.
Yeah, I think for me it was realizing how much legalism can really hurt a relationship you have with others, but also your relationship with Christ. And so the more I read the scriptures, the more I realized I had, I was being too legalistic. I was a judger, and The Shack was a book that really changed a lot for me. And I remember giving The Shack to my dad because he was a reader, but who I really wanted was for my mom to read it. And then 2 weeks later, she called me and said, "Clara, I read The Shack. I knew Jesus was a Mexican carpenter." And but the point was that it brought her to an understanding that God loves us. And so that kind of transformation that happened for her made me realize how important it is to love and to not judge and to understand where people are coming from. And that's, The Shack, basically God was saying the person that killed the little girl, I loved as equal as the little girl that died. So when I saw the transformation of my mom, that's when I really started realizing how important it was to show love before you show anything else. So in our house church, when we had drug addicts or, those who were struggling with finding themselves, was she a lesbian? Does God still love me? It was so much easier to love because I knew that is where the impact was going to, what was going to happen is through the love that we show, not the condemnation. And many times I would tell people that if you feel condemned, it's not from Jesus. There is no condemnation in Christ Jesus, Romans 8:1. And once they felt that they weren't being condemned, then they were easy to hear who Jesus was about or who God is and how, God loves us. And so that was kind of a big one for me.
That her mom reading that book was a game changer as far as our relationship with her and talking about anything of spiritual nature. I mean, anytime before that, it was always, you guys went the wrong way. You should be Catholic. What are you doing? Just very heated and contested. And it just changed everything.
Yeah.
We could talk about it.
Right.
It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny because Ruben asked that question, and I was thinking, basically my question was very similar to that. And so, but here at Pod and Deliver, we look at books, and we're always learning. We're always still, and like you shared, maybe it's not going to be the scripture, but it could be something else that will connect somebody to Christ. And you guys,
Right. That's exactly right.
And I think that's wonderful about your mom. And before she passed away, I know, and bother you, I'm sure that brings joy in your heart. So.
Yeah, that was such a gift. So.
Well, we are just so grateful that you joined us this evening.
Yeah, we loved it. It was so fun to see you guys.
This was such a treat for us. Oh,
great. And
we love you guys, and it's just, you know, like you said, 35 years. I mean, it's hard to believe, you know. I had dinner with a friend of mine a year or two ago, and we were talking about how long we've known each other, and we kind of both did the math in our head, but we wouldn't say it out loud because it was much more than 35. We couldn't admit we weren't willing to admit that we were old enough to have known somebody that long.
Well, yeah, and it's not, you know, you don't. I think we can't dismiss it because not a lot of people have that in their lives. They don't have a lot of friends that for that many years, and I think we met at a place where we still have a lot of those same people in our lives, and I think we're pretty blessed. And again, I think publicly we'll do this now. Well, thank you for just speaking to our lives as young people, and we're so glad that we still have you guys in our lives. And
we love you
So
guys. Yeah.
Thank you, Bruce and Clara, really, for everything.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You're more than welcome.
well, that's it for Pod and Deliver. Have yourself a good night, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.